guys, I think.
Are we recording?
Yes.
Okay. Let's call to order the Venturing Town Council meeting of April 16th, 2025. Roll call, please.
Kate here.
Brian here.
Tom here.
Dusty here.
Lynn here.
Eric here. And Earl's here. Thank you. Okay, will we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first order of business, approval of consent agenda. Anybody want to pull the item from there? If not, present a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second. Tom. Motion by Gusty, second by Tom, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next, we have approval of our regular agenda. Is there any revisions or amendments? Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve the regular agenda.
I'll second that.
motion by Eric, second by Gusty, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Anyone on the board have a conflict of interest on any item on the agenda tonight? Okay. Next, we have public comment, and that is, just a moment. And that's if you have any comments you want to make to the board that's not on the agenda. So if you don't have one on, if it's not on the agenda, you're welcome to come up, and otherwise you'll just wait till the agenda item comes up and you can talk to us then.
Not on the agenda.
Oh, okay. So, please. If you please state your name and address.
Yes. Name is Tim Paxson. It's 2215 Alpine Drive in Vale. And the reason I'm here is to talk to you about the 6th May election for the Eagle River Water and Sanitation District. I happen to be running in that election, and I would appreciate your vote, of course. You need to get an absentee ballot if you don't already have one, and you go to erwsd.org/elections to do that. I'm a standing board member for District 1, and that's the one on the south side of I-70, runs from East Vale down through Intermountain, or maybe the confluence of the Gore and the Eagle. Now I'm going to go into a little bit about my background. I'm actually a native of Colorado, but I was trapped in Houston for 30 long years with my wife.
That's an appropriate way to put it.
We did get up to go camping and skiing every year. My education is a chemist in chemistry and chemical engineering. And once we moved up to Vail in retirement, I realized pretty quickly that I could utilize my chemistry knowledge not for what I was doing, but I could switch that over to water chemistry. And I've actually been doing that now for 21 years. We've been here for 21 years. And I've had the opportunity to work with a number of agencies. I started off with Eagle River Watershed Council, now the Eagle River, what is it? Coalition, yes. And I started the chemistry there. I had several different projects with them, and I actually am still doing some work with them. I've also worked with the Forest Service on several projects. I've worked with Parks and Wildlife on projects, and a number of other things that pretty much involve water chemistry. two of the things that might be of interest to you, I've always been a member of a team, I think we started in 2008, where we sampled the river down from the Eagle Mine. We've been doing that for a number of years. This thing's bothering me. Can't get it to stop. And then the other thing that may be of interest to you is that I converse with EPA and CDPHE once a month about the status of the Eagle Mine and how the operation of the wastewater treatment plant's going. Maybe I just get this thing off anyway. There we go. And actually, the mayor here receives a copy of that document. And actually, anybody can get it. All they have to do is notify me, and I can send you a copy once a month. I think I'm going to just reiterate, I'm a candidate for the District 1 of the Eagle River Water and Sanitation District. And again, you can get ballots, Eagle River Water and Sanitation District.org/elections. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks.
State your name and address, please.
Yes, my name is Ken Marchetti. I'm here for the same reason, running for a different board. I actually live in Gypsum, so I'm not a town resident, but the board I'm running for, Eagle County Paramedics, or technical name, Eagle County Health Service District. And it spans from Docero, Gypsum, all the way up to Vale and to Minturn, Red Cliff. So it's a large land area, and basically they provide the ambulance service primarily in the valley. And it is a polling place election, somewhat similar to Eagle River Water and Sands election, so you won't automatically get a ballot in the mail. But if you would like to vote by mail, you have the opportunity to do that by requesting an absentee ballot. So I did pass out to everybody an application form. If you want to get the absentee ballot, you can fill that form out, send it to, scan it. The email address is at the bottom of that form, EC Paramedics. And they will mail you an absentee ballot, and then you can fill that out, vote it, and mail it back in. And so basically, I'm running on a platform of financial expertise and accountability and transparency. I've been around the valley for a little over 30 years, and I'm a CPA by background, and I work extensively primarily with local government entities. I'm mostly known as the Metro District guy, so I do accounting work for a lot of the Metro Districts up and down the valley, Eagle Vale, Beaver Creek, Edwards, westward, and so forth. And so have very strong accounting background with local government entities, budgeting, member of the Special District Association, et cetera. And so I would also request your vote if you're so inclined, would be interested in being on that board, kind of with an objective of kind of lending my expertise to an organization. They do have some financial challenges coming up, things like, we're all hearing a lot about Medicaid being cut back, Medicare being cut back, home health care services. We used to have a private provider in the valley that provided home health care services, and then as Medicaid got reduced, they said we can't make a profit at this, and they have withdrawn from the county. Fortunately, it's a large area, have a reasonably large budget to work with, so I think there are opportunities to kind of fit the pieces of the puzzle together to make it work well for everybody. But just again, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here, and we appreciate your vote. I don't think I mentioned, polling locations, there are two of them for this district. One is in Gypsum Rec Center. The other one is at Edwards Fieldhouse. And actually, for the Water and Sand District election, that one is at Edwards Fieldhouse along with Edwards Metro and paramedics. But you can also vote in Gypsum. So if that's an option for you, feel free to vote in person. But by far the most convenient is to get the absentee ballot. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ken. Do we have anyone else that would like to address the board? Okay, Cindy, do we have anybody out there with their hand raised?
We do have some folks on Zoom, no one currently with their hand raised, so I just want to reiterate to our virtual attendees that if you do want to speak at any point during the meeting, please raise your hand, and please also make sure that you update your information to reflect your full name. I have one person on by phone where I can only see a phone number, so just wanted to reiterate that if you want to speak.
Thank you, Cindy. Okay, so next item on the agenda is council comments, committee reports.
Well, I missed the last meeting and I can't remember the minutes, but the scholarship committee met at the end of March and we interviewed I think 8 really excellent members of our community, and we'll be excited to be announcing the scholarships that we award for the high school seniors at their help me out, Jay, what's it called?
Graduation.
Like award ceremony. And then the folks not matriculating from high school will be made aware of their scholarship awards in the coming weeks. It's always a good reminder that the kids are all right.
Right.
I had first meeting of the Downtown Development Authority on Monday, admittedly due to the fact that this is first one out of the gate. It was pretty much 100% clarification and questions on a myriad of issues, which segued into the fact we're just going to have another meeting in a couple weeks. Hopefully answers are forthcoming, and then we will vote in a board and move forward.
You all have access to the downtown organization.
Say again.
Who was the representative we had from downtown development? Oh, Cindy, okay. Okay, so Cindy's gonna be the staff person for the DD?
Yeah. For now.
She was there.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
She's very.
Thank you. Guys?
Yeah, I got a couple. Monday I attended the High Five Media Board meeting, and they offer some really neat workshops. And the workshops, you can learn more about video production, content creation, and the best part of it is they're free to Minturn residents. I'll name off a few of them. You got mobile video workshop. That's going to be April 23rd, 6 to 8 o'clock. And that's to update your video skills using your phone, taking better pictures, video, etc. Orientation, and they kind of recommend this being a first step, but this is May 7th at 2 p.m. and again at 5:30. And then camera basics is Wednesday, May 14th, 6 to 8:30. Take this class and learn professional grade, how to learn professional grade cameras. Editing basics is Wednesday, May 28th, 6 to 8:30. And these are for people who want to learn how to edit video using professional grade editing software and computers. And to register for any of these, go to highfivemedia.org. There are definitely some real exciting classes, and it'd be worth your time. And second thing we had a Minturn Fitness Center meeting yesterday. The biggest thing was we approved the budget. The budget runs pretty much, it's the 25-26 budget, but it's ends in April and starts in May. So that's why we ended up doing it now during the middle of the year. The good news is we're running in the black most of the time. The fitness center's in the red. We got a $23,000 surplus. And I'd like to thank Tom for all his hard work out there. That's all I got.
I'd like to remind people that along with the paramedic district election and the Eagle River Sand District election, there's also election for the Eagle River Water District. And at the same time, I am running for that unopposed, representing District 1, which includes everything from Tennessee Pass down to Avon.
Thank you.
Quick update, I attended the Eagle County Housing and Development Authority Board meeting today. We had an update on the homeless services offered in the county, as well as some housing programs and down payment assistance. All good things for people who are looking for more affordable housing options. County is working hard, so.
And the new routes coming into midterm should be happening now. So we should have 5 more bus runs coming into the town. So that's all we got there. Manager's report. Okay.
First thing is a reminder, the Bears are out. You might have seen on YouTube or something, one was skiing at Keystone without a ticket. Yeah, it was trespassing. They threw him off the mountain, but they're awake. We've had several people already replace trash cans. They're awake, they're hungry, and they're mean. I just don't want, they have cute ears, and that's about it. As of about 3 o'clock today, we have our 4 candidates, applicants for the town manager position. They have all accepted. They will all be here. April 30th is the community forum, the community meet and greet that I really encourage any citizen and anybody of interest to come out and meet them and ask them questions. As our former town manager said, this is one of the most awkward things you can possibly do. So, we can probably highlight that a little bit.
Is that going on the signboard?
I'm sorry? Yeah.
Yeah, most awkward thing like advertise that meeting on the digital sign.
Yeah, we should put on that orange rolly sign, yeah. I did put the public notice in the boards. It'll be on the computer. We're gonna do a real big, get out the meat for that date. And hopefully we can get a real good turnout. On April 30th, there's going to be a town tour for them, and I'm still working with Earl to make sure we can see if we can get a bus. Otherwise, I would like to see if we can, if something falls through, I'd like to see if we can get like a van that we can rent. I mean, I think, okay. I do want to point out that I am probably the cheapest person you will meet, and I'm really doing a conscious effort to make sure that we do this right. We want to give a very good presentation, our hair combed and dressed up nice.
Don't use your money tie.
Yeah, my money tie. The 4 candidates, just for public notice, are Chris Castilian, he's of Denver. Gloria Kosh Berger, I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce her last name. She's from Silverton. Sharon Jabowski Woltz from Holbrook, Arizona, and Rob Gutierrez of Gilpin County. And the other thing I want to point out, if anybody's got any questions on that one, otherwise I'm going to move on. Because we want to look really good, we did push back replacing the windows in the town hall. I really thought it was important when we have people like this coming to town that we actually have windows in the town hall. So I didn't want to be in the middle of it and have them staging out of this room and we're trying to do interviews and whatnot. Because we missed our original date of end of April, beginning of May for the windows, we're going to probably push out to like June, possibly July, but June-ish. And that's what I have. If anybody's, plus whatever's in the packet, if anybody's got any questions.
Anything else for Jay?
Thanks.
Okay. Katie?
So I just have quite a few items, just listed all those projects out in my report. And of course, some of those are coming up in your agenda today, so.
All right, so next, no special presentation, so we'll go into the business items. Resolution 14, Series 2025, a resolution approving an IGA with CDOT for Bellem Bridge replacement. Who's got this one?
So that is me. This is 120 pages of an IGA with the CDOT regarding the Bellem Bridge. There is a match in that the funds provided by CDOT are $297,823, and the town's match is $74,456. Now, keep in mind that this is not, it didn't have an estimate while you're preparing your budget, so it may require a budget supplement come the end of this year. So certainly would refer to Jay that procedure. So looking for your approval.
Any questions? Okay. All right, we'll take a motion.
I guess I do have one question. Was this budgeted?
No. So from my understanding, it was not budgeted, but that's certainly a J.
Is this doable in our budget?
It is doable. It was not budgeted because we didn't have any information to go on. And we try not to budget, especially a grant, unless we have it in our hot little hands, and we do.
Okay. There's no further questions?
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 14, Series 2025, a resolution to approve and authorize the mayor to sign an intergovernmental agreement for the design work and replacement of Bellem Bridge between the Colorado Department of Transportation and the town of Minturn.
Second.
Motion by Gusty, second by Kate. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next item we have is Resolution 15, Series 2025, adopting the Safe Streets for,
Sorry, Earl, I abbreviated. Let me just. So you should recall from our last meeting that we had a pretty in-depth discussion in the last meeting about the Safe Streets for All project. We had Stolfus and Associates present all the work that's happened over the past year and talk about recommendations and moving into an adoption of a safety action plan. They have now, of course, prepared that plan, and they are in attendance. Matt Brown is with us tonight, so I'm going to turn it over to him to just give hopefully a brief recap and allow council to ask any questions.
Yeah, thanks, Cindy. Appreciate that. Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here again tonight. My name is Matt Brown. I'm with Stolfus and Associates, and I'm the project manager for the town's Safe Streets for All project. So I was here a couple of weeks ago and presented, many of the highlights of the safety action plan. And since that time, we followed up with the safety action plan report, which I believe was included in your packets for your reading pleasure. Most of the information that was in the plan was presented at the last meeting. I think the only notable exceptions, I mean, there was some additional technical detail in there, but I would say that the project prioritization table that's on page 32 of the report was not discussed, nor was were the potential grant projects that are on page 33. Those grant projects were discussed with the stakeholder working group at our final meeting, and I wanted to make sure that those got included in the plan so that if the town did elect to pursue one or more of those projects, that they would be eligible for Safe Streets for All implementation funding. So I don't have a formal presentation tonight, but however, as Cindy mentioned, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have about the findings or the report.
Oh, sorry. And I'll just add, if council wants me to bring up any of the plan on the screen, I can obviously pull that presentation up.
Go ahead.
Now this is just for the town of Minturn, correct?
Yes.
So you've got pictures of, this is very little thing, but pictures of Redcliffe instead of Minturn. Chapter 1, introduction, and I think this is
It's chapter 1, 3, 5, and 8.
our
Oh.
old Minturn.
And it's on
I mean,
Redcliffe's
our old
picture and
Redcliffe.
Minturn's logo on them.
Yeah.
We can certainly update the photos. Yeah. Yeah, those were taken from our Flickr file channel that we have. So yeah, I apologize that those pictures aren't. We'll change them out.
So, Matt,
But they look nice, right? They're pretty pictures.
Minturn, Redcliffe takes very cute pictures.
Matt, the technical changes you were talking about are the changes you were mentioning at the last time you presented, and those are all taken care of?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I had a hard time hearing that. Could you repeat, please?
Yeah, so you had mentioned in the previous presentation, there were still a couple of things need to be dealt with before we make the motion and so forth. And that's what you were talking about just now, as far as getting everything there that needed to be.
Yeah, so we included a section in the report. We wanted to, I think we had been stressing since sort of the beginning of the process that there are required elements in the safety action plan. And so we put a table in there that specifically identifies what those elements are and where to be found in the report. So there's no misunderstanding about, the information that's in the report and that it does meet the requirements. So that was one of the pieces. And then we did want to include, like I said, the information, particularly on that last section, that last chapter that talked about some of the potential ways you could take the recommendations in the report and build a grant application if you chose to do that. So, for example, we had the idea of a project that would consist of the curb extensions plus the crossing enhancements, plus the RRFBs and signage improvements could all be packaged into one SS4A implementation project application. So that just wanted to highlight some of the types of projects that could be done. And that also includes some projects that aren't necessarily recommended, including, I think we had you could widen the road to create room for bike lanes as another project that potentially does address the bicycle safety issue. It's a very expensive, very impactful alternative, but we wanted to, put that whole range of ideas there so that they would be eligible should the town decide to pursue one or more of them.
Thank you, Matt. Any other questions from Matt?
So, well, I guess based on what you just mentioned, so are you saying that if something's not mentioned specifically in here, it's not eligible into the implementation plans, or can you add?
Yes.
Tweak?
No, so there is a process where you can update the plan once it's been adopted, created. I think it's called supplemental planning funds. So in that case, it would be a similar process that the town followed to get the initial grant. You would identify, what elements of the plan need updating, and then apply for additional, financial assistance to do that. So it can be updated in order to be eligible for just specifically the SS4A Safe Streets for All implementation funding. It does need to be in the plan. So if a year from now, 2 years from now, a safety improvement concept comes up, it could be amended into the plan, but there is a process to do that. The only reason for doing, I'm sorry.
Would it make sense to add like an appendix of other potential ideas that also you'd like to cover more bases on this? I know we've got curb extensions and crosswalks and things, and we've talked about how population we're building different housing projects down that way. We're extending our sidewalks. There's a lot of different things that could happen. Between signage and small round, there's gonna be a roundabout. There's basically there's things that we may not know that we might need or might want to consider, and it seems crazy to not put as many, kind of like go through our comments, there's millions of comments, like add as many potential ideas in there just so that we kind of cover our bases, and if a year down the road we find ourselves in a situation where we want to apply for a grant for something that wasn't covered in this. Does that make sense? It just seems
Yeah,
like,
no, it does make sense. I think that the issue would be needing to have a connection between those projects, or, technically they should be recommendations. Just having a list of strategies in the plan, I don't think really meets the intent of, hey, a study was performed, these improvements, these safety enhancements were recommended in the plan, and therefore, are good fundable projects. Having a list of strategies that don't have a particular specific application or connection to an existing or projected future safety problem, I don't think would result
I'm
in
not saying
those
that we would
projects
do that. I'm
necessarily
saying like
being
something I'm going
eligible.
to use, like raised crosswalks, for example. We figured out that CDOT doesn't like the idea of raised crosswalks right now, but
Yep.
a lot of us in town love the idea of a raised crosswalk or some, medians and things like that. Yeah, exactly. We didn't put it in this plan because we didn't think CDOT would do it, but who knows? Maybe with a new governor and new leadership at CDOT, they'd be more willing to, or noise from the public, or mountain towns, and maybe they'd be willing to look at a raised crosswalk in 2 years down the line. So it seems like if there's stuff like that came up that we just didn't put in there because we didn't think CDOT would approve it, like we should ask for what we want, not what we think CDOT will approve.
Right, and I mean there are applications for those types of treatments off highway. We didn't identify any particular areas of pedestrian vehicle conflict concern off the highway that would suggest something like that. But we can one approach may be to just ensure, like, as we're reviewing, I guess what I would suggest in light of that comment, what we could do is review the document and make sure that our use of language is sufficiently broad so that we may identify a particular speed management strategy like curb extensions, but not potentially leave the door open for other speed management strategies to be proposed. I don't know. I suppose that would give us the most flexibility in terms of future making a case in the future for funding a project through SS4. And again, really, it's only the Safe Streets for All program that requires the project to be listed in the SS4A. So that that program we hope will continue, but as we mentioned last time, I think it's only guaranteed through this next funding cycle, which closes a little bit later this year. After this year, it's whether the program continues or not is going to be the subject of.
It's June 26th.
June 26th, yeah. Whether it continues beyond June 26th is going to be dependent upon reauthorization and the federal legislation and all that fun stuff that we have very little control over.
On the language front, I have a question. What's the definition of a vulnerable road user?
So the specific definition is someone who's a pedestrian or a bicyclist, or typically that includes people on scooters, wheelchairs, devices like that. And the vulnerable part is just obviously if any of those people aren't protected if they get struck by a vehicle, and so they're vulnerable to serious injury and death.
Thank you, Matt. Anything else for Matt? Okay, we've got a resolution on the table. We have a motion. So resolution 15.
Make a
motion to approve Resolution 15, Series 2025, resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Minturn adopting a Safe Streets for All safety action plan.
I'll second that.
Motion by Eric, second by Gusty. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Right, next we have the Highway 24 Main Street Phase 2 sidewalk project.
Yes, so the town of Minturn received one bid for the US 24 sidewalks. It was $325,000 over the projected engineer's estimate. And so we're asking you to reject this bid by motion. So we can go back to 360. And of course, then there's another agenda item to ask for a bid alternative on the next agenda item.
Any further questions for Katie? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to reject 360 Silver Incorporated bid US 24 Main Street Phase 2 sidewalks.
Okay.
I'll second.
Motion by Gusty,
Motion.
second by Lynn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And then we have the contract amendment. Do we need to make a motion on that?
From my understanding, yes. It is a contract amendment from Stolfus regarding a bid alternative. So a bid alternative would be they've currently have a project plans for the full extent of the project. And the bid alternative would be basically a shorter segment of that sidewalk. So that hopefully, and I think that I think there's a good chance that we get this in budget so the town could do it within the budget that they have for 2025.
So, do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve Stolfus Minturn Phase 2 bid alternatives contract amendment in the amount not to exceed $27,000.
I'll second that.
Motion by Tom, second by Gusty. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That is done. Next we have discussion items. The first one is Little Beach Park and Playground Design Plan B.
Yes. So we have had a lot of discussions with Strategies, your grant writer, and we did receive the information from GOCO, and it was a very positive grant. They just felt that the town of Minturn was not shovel ready. So in our discussions with Dan, who is with GOCO, his recommendation was to get it designed. Designed basically your phase one. That could be, you know, the trail on the south side of I don't want to call it an auditorium. It's not an auditorium. That's the stage. Sorry. And the green room, and do some of that design on that area. You could use part of the grant funds or the funds that you have for a special fund that is actually for Little Beach Park to fund that. And then you can use that $100,000 plus probably the $30,000 or any other funds you use to design as leveraging additional GOCO grant. So I gave you kind of a alternative B. T-Mobile grant will still play into this. The reason that we could not apply for T-Mobile at the end of March is that we did not have a design to send them. By June or September, they have quarterly application cycles. We could send a design by then, and then it would be ready, shovel ready for 2026. So I gave you kind of an outlay of what my first plan was when we thought we would do the T-Mobile grant, and then plan B, which would be using those dollars and then leverage that for a larger GOCO grant in 2026.
You, somewhere in here refers to a restroom.
Yes, the design of a restroom.
It sounds like there's funding for that.
Design of a restroom. And then we also are working with the funders. There's another grant that doesn't have an open cycle right now that you could actually go for a restroom. So GOCO typically will provide funds for a restroom, They will not provide funds for the stage or green room or, anything that's enclosed.
So I guess next to it, the historic barn is going to be moved for a concession stand. And in here, I read that it contemplates another historic building being moved there for the restroom. And I don't know of any other historic building that could be moved.
From my understanding, it would be the barn that would be moved for the historic building. All I'm taking is information that was provided in the grant that was originally done a couple of years ago.
The barn is not big enough, it's just big enough for the concession stand, but nothing
Not
else.
for the restrooms. You probably wouldn't want it for restrooms, yeah.
And so I think that's a whole different.
You could still design basically all the footings for that to have that moved. That could still be part of this, doing this early enough so that you have that information of what it's going to cost. It may not, GOCO may not fund it, but at least you would have an understanding of what that would cost.
And I don't think there's another building that could be moved. I mean, you'd be talking about.
You're going to know more about your historic buildings than I will. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Did you just use the playground budget estimate from the original one too?
Yes. So I got these figures from Intermountain, and Jeff said, you're going to have to inflate those for 2026. And so Deborah and I decided, well, let's just do 10% from the original. So that was the inflated amount for the playground.
Okay. And you have to do the rubber surface for the grant, probably.
It's likely. There's chips and there's other things. Certainly that would be part of the design process and part of that public input that you would have through the summer as you're getting prepared for this. You would hire a consultant to do a lot of those that public outreach and get that information.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions on the part? Okay. Next item is discussion direction on Taylor Street paving and drainage discussion.
So is that the direction you'd like to go?
We need a decision, Earl.
I assume we're going to go ahead and move forward with design.
Plan B.
Plan, yeah, right.
I
Get the design started. Of course, we need to have a cost on that too, so.
Absolutely. And those are things that we will definitely go back to GOCO. In our discussions with GOCO, they weren't really comfortable until the council kind of gave us direction to go this direction so that they were better prepared to answer a lot of our questions.
I do have a question of Jeff on this, on the drainage. Because I know seems to be a big issue for the residents to.
We're still on the Little Beach part, so.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we moved on.
Okay, so are you happy with the direction then?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Sorry.
On the Taylor Street paving and drainage, Rob, want to give you an apology because I thought I'd forgotten that it was a work session that we had on that, and that would have been a lot better information for you than watching us just get the approval on it. So we're gonna we have Jeff here, and we're gonna he's come up with some new ideas on everything, and I think probably best start with your presentation, don't you think?
Oh, all right. Based on the council's direction, the last meeting we had, we started trying to put a drainage ditch on the east side of Taylor, the length of the road, because that was the direction we got from council. It doesn't work, is the bottom line. There's improvements in that area, both private and public. There's utilities in that area, there's power poles. It won't work. So in our letter report to you, we included that design so that you could see what it looked like, but we also provided a design that would have a 4-foot concrete drainage pan on the east edge of the road. That drainage pan allows us to match driveways, existing things, and do much less work on that east side of the road. It works better, and that's what we're recommending, is that we put a pan on that side of the road. Now, the pan won't carry as much water as the ditch, and so we'll put frequent crossings in, drainage inlets that'll take the water across to the big ditch on Minturn North.
Everybody see the noise on the packet? Okay, any questions on that?
There you go.
Now I've got my question. Will the residents be able to drive through the pan without any problem?
Yes.
As opposed to the
It'll only
ditch?
be a few inches deep. They can drive right through.
And that's a cheaper alternative than doing it on the east side on Grant Street?
Grant doesn't work because there's there's stuff up that's been built up, there's buildings been built up in.
So I looked at the map and I only saw, I haven't walked it, but it looked like there was really only one building that intruded into that right of way. And if the ditch was on the east side of that, it wouldn't disturb the building.
We can't go outside of that because we'd be into Forest Service and we'd need Forest
No,
Service.
the east side of the road, no, I meant the east.
East side of Grant.
Yes,
Okay.
I didn't mean to go outside or right away.
We only took a brief look at it, and the reason we kind of abandoned it early is construction access. There's no connection point to get equipment up to Grant, and there's no drainage easements. Once you collect the drainage at Grant, we'd have to acquire easements
To bring it back
to
down.
get it back down. So there were just a lot of reasons why we just didn't feel like it was worth spending a lot of time on it.
Thank you.
Cindy, can you put up on the screen page 374 and zoom in on the drawing that Jeff did for us?
Yes, one moment.
So everyone can see it. And you're welcome to get up closer if you need to.
The recommendation is the bottom drawing on that board that Katie put out.
I just have a comment for maybe just future in general. I'm not an engineer. I don't know how to really read blueprints. I thought that's what we were trying to do.
Yeah.
Same. We were under the impression that that's what we were asking
thought we
for.
were
So I guess maybe like ditch versus
Soil versus pan.
maybe like even just pictures like of the specific things that you could show us, examples from other places would be super helpful, because like we're staring at blueprints and things and don't always know.
Apologize. I walked out of here with the understanding to do a ditch, and I think Katie did too.
Yeah, but to me, like ditch is a ditch not concrete versus concrete. I don't know. Like
Yeah.
it's a dip to me. Dip, ditch.
With doing a 4-foot concrete pan option, would that eliminate the 5-foot driveways that we were talking?
No, we'll still have, and the 5 foot is just a nominal number. Some of them may take 2 feet, some of them may take 12 feet. But we'd adjust the elevation of that pan such that the impact of the driveways would be minimal. And, so these aprons would be, short.
Kind of an easy transition then to.
More to the point, would we adjust the elevation of the east side of the road up? Possibly. The common problem, obviously, depending on which section of Taylor Street you're talking about, whether it's the entrance to the townhomes and variety of driveways as we go down, is their slope and grade already. And you already comment here in regards to essentially tilting Taylor westbound for that drainage piece. So the question is, how would that be done? Grading down the west side or increasing the height of the east side, which arguably would reduce the slope on the driveways, and obviously putting in a fairly mild concrete pan, vice a significant ditch, since the reality is parallel parking, et cetera, on that side of the road due to issues we've already discussed on the east side with curb for Minturn North.
The answer to your question is both. It'd be a combination of lowering the west side and raising the east side where it's necessary. We start out just trying to match driveway grades, and then it'll have to drain to the west. So it's going to be a combination of the two.
Okay.
Cindy, can you blow up the drawing that's at the very bottom of that page?
I don't know if I can because I don't have that image independently. Let me try something else. 1 second.
Okay, if you can, that's okay.
Is that any better though?
Yeah.
We'll keep going.
Let me do more. How's that?
It's getting closer, yeah. So we'll just leave that up there.
That too,
Okay, so that's kind of what we have. The swale is going to be shallow enough to where you can easily drive over it into up your
Be a
driveway.
pan.
And the pan will be.
Or a pan. This.
I want the council to be aware that that pan is going to take care of snow melt and nuisance flows. If we get a big rain, it's going to overtop that and go across the road. So
I mean, that's an improvement on
It's-
the nothing that's there, right?
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
think
exactly.
most of what we
Nowhere to go
encounter
but up,
is
so we're good with
snow
that.
melt and
Yeah.
mild weather.
And then intern north ditch is to the west side of the road, so
Yeah.
that should pick up a lot of the water coming off of the east, from the east.
And then there are a couple of points of concentrated flow coming down the hill. And obviously, we just put culverts in to take that across the road.
Do we know where those are?
We know where a couple of them are, but, you know, we probably would want to get up there in the spring runoff and see if there's more. Or hear from the residents where they think the culverts ought to be. And they did give us information at the open house.
And today is just strictly drainage discussion, correct?
So I think the idea with,
Today is just drainage discussion, correct?
there's a few other items, yes.
I'm just checking. I'm asking you that question.
So, anyway, as far as connection to driveways and so forth, the concrete pan will be set at a level to where there shouldn't be any level difference from going over the pan and into your driveway. And so going to the next issue.
So the direction is to do the design for the 4-foot pan is the direction, thank you.
Assuming council agrees.
Should we hear from everyone that came?
Well, so.
We get thumbs up from the public if they like that.
Do them all at once.
Do we do drainage separately from the other items?
Yeah.
Or should we talk about everything and then comment on everything?
Okay, so the main part of the drainage is what we just discussed. So that we do have other items like the hump and those kinds of things as well.
Cool.
So
Well, the other thing the concrete pan does is it probably addresses the concern about the width of the road, because the 4 feet is gonna turn it into a 25-foot paved section of road.
So I guess I'm not getting an answer to this question, so I'm gonna ask it. So as part of that drainage, as part of that increased elevation on the west side, the east side, lowering on the west side, the south end hump, the intersection of Minturn Road and Taylor, the grade we've talked about before, based on that action of the tilt, what if anything occurs to those areas?
There's no change. The council direction was not to try and cut that knob off, and because that bump is right at the intersection of Lions Lane and Taylor. And we were told there's already problems with cars sliding through that intersection. And the grade is such that if we lower Taylor, we would have to rebuild a chunk of that road, and it looked to be that we were gonna get into the driveways of the townhouses that face there pretty quickly. And
Oh, I'm looking at the north end, since I unfortunately wasn't at that council meeting, so the elevation to the north of the hump, basically bringing it up as to what you just talked about. That's kind
Actually-
of decreasing that issue.
Katie has a video she took of driving down that road that I'd like y'all to look at. I don't think it's necessary to put fill in front of that. We certainly can, but
Obviously, it's been raised ever since the PUD started with Minturn North, so that intersection of Taylor and Minturn Road, from a safety standpoint, a slope standpoint, is a problem. So I realized at the end, due to the previous PUD submission, it was infeasible as far as the entry into the townhomes, and then cutting back on the, 70, 65 degree angle look back that you have if you are southbound on Taylor at the stop sign, with the likely vertical visual obstruction of what ultimately is going to go in at that end of Minturn North. So obviously it's been brought up in regards to either just terminating that intersection, closing that out. Obviously, arguably it would reduce costs. But either way, minimize an impact on right-of-way and parking, but at the same time, cutting down on volume of traffic and the safety issue at the intersection.
we discussed that a bit at the last meeting. Minturn North, one iteration back when Jim Comfort was the developer that was presenting it, their engineer, Justin Barnell, did a very extensive study of trying to turn Taylor into a 90-degree intersection.
Yep.
We didn't try and reinvent the wheel, but it required raising Minturn Road 5 or 6 feet. There's extensive utilities that are going to need to be considered there. There's the high pressure gas line, there's a low pressure gas line, and there's a fire hydrant. That all of that's going to may need to be adjusted, you know.
Right, so from a cost analysis and per the walkthrough of the culvert that resides between the townhomes, that's the other overflow problem. Essentially closing that off without affecting those townhome driveways takes care of a myriad of problems. One, you're not messing with those utilities. And now we don't have to have a discussion about the spring runoff overflow from that culvert. And at the same time takes care of the intersection problem in total. The only issue is that increased traffic on Taylor for the townhomes, and everything's going through 4th Street.
That was discussed even back during Minturn North stuff, and the recommendation from their traffic engineer was to turn it into driveway for those townhomes, the end of Taylor.
So are you saying that it might very well make sense to just not have that intersection at all and have cars go on 4th, turn, and then turn south on Taylor to get to the townhouses? And that would be
Yes.
a dead end.
That's what closing the Taylor intersection, that's exactly what it would do, is it would put all the traffic on 4th from Taylor.
Could you close it above the townhome driveway? And then,
You know, we haven't looked at it in detail, but probably, and just either use the existing road or
well, then you don't.
build a new driveway for those 3 townhomes.
How about the fire truck turnaround?
We haven't studied it, but
I'd
we'd have
be
to look at that.
curious to see what the public thinks of that, how that would, whether that works for them or not, for people who don't live in the townhouse.
Personally, I don't know if I would, if I was just north of the townhomes, we want to have to drive all the way down to 4th to come up and over.
Well, it's a trade-off, that's why I'd like to know what they think.
You were raised.
No.
Come up. Give me your name and address and all that.
Trent Schaffler, 105 Lions Lane. I happen to live in the townhomes. And so this, Tom brings up a very good point. I was actually going to talk about this evening, in that the closure of that road eliminates a lot of the problems that were addressed here. And I think from a traffic flow, it's kind of a push. Because right now, everyone comes out of coming through the city, goes up Taylor and goes by Anthony's house. Everyone knows Anthony's the next house over, or 2 houses over, I should say. And so now you're going to eliminate all that traffic that's going to be on the other end of the road, because they're going to go down 4th Street, come up and turn left or right. And some of that traffic will never get to Anthony's house. Obviously, the townhome traffic will now kind of take over some of that traffic that already happens today. So I think at the end of the day, you end up with a push, maybe even less. From disconnecting the intersection, I think that, one, it solves the dangerous corner. Helps with, maybe they'll actually move that fire hydrant because it gets buried in snow every year. You have to deal with it all the time. So actually moving it, actually, I would say, actually makes a little bit of sense. I mean, it's guarded with railroad-driven pylons to make sure no one hits it, which, you know, it kind of, if you look at it, it's got its own problems. It's not in a great position. And from, I'm sure Alex over here will have an opinion on his driveway, but I think going either way of how you either, for their driveways of entrance, either coming in off of Minturn Road or that intersection, or coming in the other way, eliminates a lot of traffic flow right in front of his house. It also fixes the fact that those driveways into building, what we call building A, are very short, as you all know. And so from a safety perspective, those vehicles that they park outside their homes, they're right on top of the roadway. So that would eliminate some of those other problems. So if you ask me, I live there, I'd have to drive down the 4th Street, come up and come around. And I thought about it long and hard, and I would be fine with it.
It's a much safer intersection.
Yeah, and you're sending people to 90-degree corners, they're just gonna have stop signs and so forth. So much improved. So I'd be an advocate.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak up right now? Jeff, you want to go through the rest of what your thoughts have been before we started discussing this particular idea?
That really kind of hits it. That using a drainage pan instead of a ditch solves a myriad of problems. So the notion of closing the Taylor-Minturn Road intersection, it's a good idea. The council had kind of said no, they didn't want to close it. Trying to turn it into a 90-degree or even 40-degree, you know, just bending it back is very difficult to do because of the grades out there and existing things. So closing it, if that's an option, it does solve a bunch of safety problems.
Like practically speaking, how would you put like a barricade up? What would you do?
I would transition out the green space, the length of that.
It'll just be disconnected. The asphalt will end, and you know, we'll have to figure out some sort of turnaround at the end of it.
A bulb.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Hi, Hanny Malik from 498 Taylor Street. Wanted to, I guess I'll comment on closing Taylor Street first. We've talked about it quite a bit in the past. I think we should probably may want to go back and take a look at what the comments were at the time, so we're not taking a step back from where we were. I think there's some definitely think that the intersection of Taylor Street and Minturn Road has issues, and we need to figure out how to address them. But if there's an issue about if we close it, that we have a 1-point exit there, which is a safety issue. With the construction, and even without the construction, there's always trucks, things that are stop in the middle of the road, and we've had modular unit put on that was parked on 4th Street for like 2 days.
Well, that would not happen if we're forced to.
Yeah, but things like that happens, and we have utility trucks and things that stop, and if we close Taylor Street, then there's not a way to exit, and there's definitely an issue with fire trucks and emergency vehicles. So that, I think, needs to be looked along with everything else. And but looking back at what the comments were is probably worthwhile, so we don't reinvent. We don't take a step back. If I could comment on the drainage, I think Jeff is definitely on the right track of putting the pan there. It's a significantly better option than the ditch or channel. I would say that we probably want to look at an extra culvert right around, I think around 480 Taylor Street. It kind of flattens up right by 4th.
Okay.
You have the culvert on the south side. You may want to look at putting one on the north side also, because that's a drainage.
On the north, you mean on both sides?
On both sides of it.
Okay.
Take a look at, and I know this.
We haven't looked at drainage.
Yeah, no, that's an issue.
Yeah.
And along the same, and this is something we talked a lot about with the alignment of the road, which is kind of tied to the drainage issue. Like Kate mentions, is that a lot of people can't read those drawings and can't really tell where the road actually is. And the previous, when Jim Conifer had done the alignment, it was cutting into people's driveways and was under poles. I'm sure you're not doing that. That's not the case. But once you get through to a point where you have the design pretty much laid out, it would help if there's either markings on the road where that shows the edge of the pan for people to be able to tell how it impacts their driveway.
Okay.
And
We did push the road to the east.
Yes, I noticed that you pushed it all the way so that I think this is much better than it was, but some people have questions about that still. And having something visual versus a drawing would help people better understand.
And I probably shouldn't be doing this, but I'll ask anyway. With the closure of Taylor, we could also turn it into an emergency access only, and it could be chained off in the highway. If a fire department shows up, they have a key or they can cut the chain to get it through. So it could be turned into just an emergency access.
It's a possibility.
That would get rid of that problem. That would get rid of that problem if it was a problem.
Yeah, then you'd have two ways to get in an emergency.
And if there's a way to get out, call somebody, come in and unlock it because we're stuck.
Well,
And I have to go pick up the kids, or I have to.
The fire department will have a key, or they can cut it. They'll have bolt cutters they can get through, so.
But looking back at some other comments, may be worthwhile too.
Anybody's planning on moving a whole bunch of furniture up there, you might want to get it done before we start that.
Because there's not, and the other thing is there's not really a way to turn around anywhere.
We haven't looked at that at all.
Yeah, and I think that was the same question at the end of Taylor Street. On the other end.
On the north end?
On the north end, there was a big discussion of whether the fire trucks could turn around, and there was a suggestion about putting a way for the trucks to turn around there. I don't think that's now possible, but maybe with the extension by where there's a discussion about maybe adding something by where the Minturn mile ends. Maybe put something out there. So that's something to look at.
Right now,
solving two problems.
Our direction was to end the road at the end of the right of way, and there is no room. We'd have to acquire right of way to put a cul-de-sac there.
I think there's not an easy solution.
No,
I agree with you. And since those are the only topics we can cover, I appreciate. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your design.
My name's Darren Holke. I live at 530 Taylor. Yeah, the north end where the fire trucks are, they've never been able to turn around up there. There's not enough space there. And on the south end, there's closing the road it disrupts the flow of the entire neighborhood. I would be 100% against that. I don't think it makes sense at all. There's no way to, it'll bottleneck each end. And if you guys drive down Taylor and you take a left on 4th, you'll see the agriculture drainage ditch that we built there and put a guardrail there. The width of that street right there is pretty small, or it's a short. I'd have to say it's pretty narrow. 4th Avenue is a pretty narrow street. If we put a tape measure on, I guarantee that's down to the minimum width, and funneling all of the traffic from the north and the south all on 4th. It's not a good idea. And as far as the intersection of Taylor and Minturn, I'm not so sure I've seen a car wreck at that intersection. I think the S corner by the International Building is where all the wrecks occur in that area. That intersection is dangerous, but as far as the I'm not sure if you want to comment on the pan, but I don't know what our budget is on this project, but I think we should start at that. What is the number? How much money do we have to spend on this project? And I think putting a concrete pan on the east side, I don't think it's necessary. I talked to my neighbor today. I've lived in the neighborhood for 25 years. The amount of water that we've seen, I think we've had heavy water twice in 17 years. So for us to drop $250,000 on pans, I think, and on concrete, I think there's other places to spend the money. So looking at the numbers and engineering things and really putting in culverts, I just think we should start at the top. This is our number. This is how much the excavation will be. This is how much our paving is going to be. Can we afford the pan in our budget? I thought we were just going to grind the road and repave it. So as far as the road closure goes, I'm not for it at all. And the money's going to run out quick. So I think that's where we actually need to start, is how much cash do we have to spend on this project? How much does a pan cost? And also, there's no way we can turn a fire truck or a tow truck or emergency vehicles or anything down on the south end of Taylor. It just doesn't make sense to me. So, and it's going to disrupt the flow of our neighborhood. And 4th Avenue, that intersection of 4th and Taylor on the east side of 4th, it can't sustain the traffic. It's too narrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Darren. Rob?
Hey everybody, Rob Gushevsky, 560 Taylor Street. Thanks for taking another look at all this and getting some public input. And extend an invitation out there to staff, Jeff, anybody, make myself available to walk the street with some plans and show where the true problem areas are. I think it needs a little more study. It's easy to say we'll just do a pan the whole way, but I'll echo Darren there. There's some sections that it's pretty minimal. Can we look at the budget and the flat parts? How bad is a pan really needed? Perhaps in front of my house where it's, I don't know, 15% grade almost. A pan could protect the asphalt. I understand the pan is to protect the new asphalt. Does anybody know when the last time Taylor Street was paved? Who's our oldest old timer? Darren? 90s?
Youngest older timer.
Was it the 90s?
No, 1941 it was paved still. It wasn't
I would-
dirt road.
I guess it was in the late late seventies.
resurfaced in the late 70s, so it's older than me. So even without concrete pan the entire length, it's hanging in there for almost 50 years. So let's take a look at the places where it's absolutely crumbling and blowing up. As Hanny said, just north of the 4th Street intersection, that's where we really need a drainage inlet and a culvert. I'm guessing these plans are just preliminary because it's missing a drainage inlet and a culvert where we have the most water on the whole length of the street crossing the road. If you look at the plans, there's no culvert yet. So let's keep working on these plans. Take some measurements. I sent a bunch of photos from a perfect day. The snow was melting, but there hadn't been any rain. So you could see where the asphalt was wet and where it was dry, where it's actually crossing and where it's not crossing. I thought it was a good day to illustrate where the water actually makes its trek across the road. So yeah, thanks. And hopefully we can see some more plans and some numbers for the budget. I hear that the direction was not to go on the north end past the right of way, but I will point out that there is a gap between right of ways on the north end because there is Grant Avenue. Taylor Street on the north end jumps from the Taylor Street right of way to the Grant Avenue right of way, and it's like 140 feet. So that section of road gets used a lot by everybody, especially people that come spend money in the town. Hiking, skiing, our rescue guys, our snowplow guys use it. And if we're really interested in protecting the new asphalt we put down, if we all of a sudden just go from gravel to an asphalt edge right there at the right of way, that's a lot of water coming down from the hiking trail right there to that horizontal boundary. We're gonna have that asphalt get torn up if it's not protected somehow. So let's see if we can skimp on some concrete and just take that pavement all the way so that when the plows come down from Rob's at the top, the old Palmatier place, they're not crunching into the new asphalt there. That just, it doesn't seem like that's going to break the budget. Just want to cover a couple of the more points if I can. This new idea all of a sudden it's not new, revived idea of closing Taylor. That kind of surprised me. Why would we ever want to reduce our options of circulating around the neighborhood? It's not just cars, bikes want to go through there. If there's a chain there, it's gonna be fun to try to train the children of not to hit the chain trying to bike to town. But once they pave Minturn Road, I feel like you're going to see a lot less people taking that right onto Taylor Street at the townhomes. It'll be a better option for a lot more people. For years, I haven't been driving Minturn Road in May or October or November. At those times of years, I have to take Taylor. But once Minturn Road gets fixed, I think you're going to see a lot more northern Taylor Streeters just taking Minturn Road and then 4th. We have to take Taylor Road certain times of the year. And certain construction moments, you look down, you see the drywall crane blocking the road. Well, we'll take Taylor. And it's nice to have that option. So I think, like Hanny said, let's go back to it. Everybody already spoke about this. Engineers have studied it. Yeah, it's going to save building A. It's definitely dangerous on building A. That's why some of the drawings I've submitted, everything I want to say is in those drawings and in this email. So you guys know what I really think. But there's 3 townhomes in building A, and I don't think closing off Taylor Street to make that safer, I don't think that's a fair deal. Anyway, yeah, let's look at the hump. It'd be great to fill that spot north of Anthony's driveway. It's just a big hole. Let's throw some dirt in there. That might even make the slope coming out of the townhomes onto Taylor a little less freaky if it was flat, because if you're coming down that town's driveway, looking to the right, it's just steep and slippery and north facing. Thank you for, from what I could tell, it'd be nice to see some full resolution drawings of the plan. From what I got from Katie, we've got some low resolution PDF inserts, but it'd be nice to be able to zoom in. But from what I could tell, the new road was aligned on the west edge of the existing asphalt. So I think that's great. As much space as possible. Bill is here, so maybe he'll talk about the parking on the pan. But are we allowed to park on top of a drainage pan? If that pan is in the existing parallel parking on the east side, what's the town regulations for parking straddling the pan? So yeah, my email covered it. I spent a lot of time on it, and I'm glad it brought us here. So thanks for hearing us all out again.
Thank you, Ralph. Bill?
Yeah, Bill Hobblesell, 262 Taylor Street. Yeah, real quick, do we have an answer for that last question Rob left us with? Is the pan part of people's parking in front of their houses, or is it part of the street and it's going to be a ticketed area?
No, we don't have a policy against parking on the pan. Preferably, your wheel won't be in the bottom of the pan because that would kind of block any drainage benefit. So, but as far as I know, we don't have anything on the books.
So I think that's something to consider. I think, yeah, before providing any firm direction for staff on that, I think there's a little more to explore about that. Putting the pan in there is pretty impactful on some properties, and it's not that impactful on some others. In particular, anybody that has a property that has a steep slope and a steep driveway down to the road, you know, it's not just the 4 feet of the pan itself that encroachment is going to come into their property, or at least what they're using as their property. What would be the side slope, you know, leading up from that pan? 3 to 1, something like that.
I don't know what side slope you're talking about.
It's great if I draw on your picture for another piece. So, you know, we have the road here, and then someone has a retaining wall. My house has one, a number of other places down towards Darren. There's quite a few. You know, we have edge of road here, we have a pan, so potentially there's excavation into people's slopes, and then potentially putting a stable back slope at the edge of that pan, also at some 3 to 1 or other angles, going to further go into their property. So, you know, just from those engineering designs that have been put out so far, it's really hard to tell what the actual true impact on your property is of this design and this plan. And I think short of going out there and actually surveying the edge of where this is going to be, and then also surveying the top slope of any cut and fill that's going to take place on somebody's property, is the only way for people on Taylor Street to really understand what they're losing or not losing on their property. And it's potentially a lot. And, you know, if we are losing something on our property like that, and there's new retaining or new grading walls or new regrading of the driveway past that apron, you know, beyond the driveway, who's footing the bill for that? If we have to rebuild a new wall, rebuild new cribbings, that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of outstanding questions, I think, that aren't available just from these designs so far. So I'd hate to see direction to pursue this design without more information available. So, you know, that's kind of my thoughts on the pan.
These drawings are conceptual. It's the first crack at it so that we can have these kinds of discussions. But the edge of the pan, the idea would be to match existing grade coming into it. Whatever is coming down the hill, that would match it. And one of the reasons we recommended the pan instead of the ditch was because of the retaining walls you're talking about. And the pan will fit. I mean, the road section that is proposed there is 25 feet wide, including the pan. It's 21 feet of asphalt, 4 feet of concrete, so it's 25 feet wide, which a lot of Taylor is 25 feet wide now. It varies from 22 to 25. But the goal of putting a pan in would be to minimize the impact on the adjoining properties. We can adjust the height, you know, the elevation of that pan to try and match where your driveway is, for example.
I think that's great. That's all I want to hear is that this plan, you know, once this direction goes to them, that this is the way, that if we find out this isn't really working, that we're now not locked in on that course. That's what I'm interested in, I think, with this. And the aerial photos are not aligned properly in those engineering drawings. You know, they show our house over onto Patricia's lot. And, you know, we have an ILC that has shown that we're where we need to be on our lot. We're not hanging, so that kind of thing. So it's really hard to tell where exactly this is on your property from the aerial photos from these plans. So that's a concern. I think in general, I would lump myself in as not in favor of closing Taylor Street. I think we've embarked on this pattern of starting to make really incoherent, kind of dead-end suburban street patterns in this town. And that's, I think, bad news all around for any town, not just circulation of vehicles, but circulation of pedestrians, kids, rescue vehicles, whatever. You know, take a look at downtown, think about Eagle Street, where Eagle Street is disconnected. You know, obviously that's very beneficial for you. No one comes down your section of the street, but for the community as a whole, it's an incoherent road design. You know, we could have gotten all the way down through downtown without having to cross Main Street, kids on a bike, people, you know, walking, people pushing babies, if we had had a connective, redundant road system through town. You know, think about what we would have if Williams had actually punched through to Boulder behind Holy Toledo, and we didn't just have the benefit that they don't care that we all walk by Holy Toledo, and we had an actual, you know, walkable street easement through there. So I think disconnecting Taylor Street and Minturn Road further is a negative overall, although I'm well aware of the safety issues of it. You know, this follows up on, I think, big mistakes we made on not forcing a cross street at the end of Minturn North. That would have made this emergency vehicle turnaround a moot point up there at the end of the street if we had had 5th or 6th Street up there next to Game Creek. So I think further breaking apart our town grid is a mistake, and I would not like to see that happen on Taylor Street, although I realize there's issues to address there. And I think the fact that we're still talking about this shows, or is a bit testament to how shrewd Comerfield and Rick were in donating that section to the town. So now we're back stuck dealing with that along our property gift, and they extracted themselves from having to fix that issue during Minturn North. So that's all I got, I guess. Thanks.
Thank you, Bill.
Oh, one more thing. I think a lot of towns, the residential roads are actually, they don't need to be this wide. 9 feet roads are common in other places without any loss of safety according to actual hard data. So I think it's something to consider. We have an 11-foot lane width proposed on this, 4 feet 10. Okay. So, you know, if you start to consider things like that for what's the paved width of Taylor there, you start to you know, there's 2 more feet right there that you're finding in the plan for drainage and parking and side work, that kind of thing. So, thanks.
Name and address, please.
Duncan Robinson, 531 Taylor. A couple, you know, I echo what Darren was saying about, you know, looking at the budget first and considering, you know, a 4-foot pan, or can we do a 2-foot pan, or can we do pans in only parts of the road that maybe require them? Just getting creative with that. I think most people are here because they fear the impact that the project would have on their property. So just considering, you know, where that starts, I think, you know, anytime you push, you know, right now the boundary between the town road and your property feels like where the asphalt ends. So if you push that asphalt into somebody's driveway, it feels like you're losing space, you're losing a piece of driveway that is on a property that's tight. Like my house is pretty tight, the driveway is tight, everything is, it's tight living on the that side of Taylor Street. So just you know, I think maybe looking at possibly starting the project, you know, where that asphalt exists right now on the east side, I think would, you know, answer a lot of concerns from the residents. I think one question on the hump, that we're talking about where Taylor ends into Minturn Road. Have we looked at like stop signs? There's a stop sign on Taylor Street, but what if we added stop signs on Minturn Road? You know, to slow things down there. Like Darren was saying, I've never seen an accident in that section. So maybe adding stop signs and then just, you know, slowing things down in that section would also help. I think there is a slight uphill hump after Lions Lane comes down. So maybe we can take off, you know, some of that roadway and actually lower it, you know, a foot. I don't know if that helps at all, but, you know, I think studying that and seeing what those elevations are would also, you know, help things. I think that's about it. But thanks for taking comments and making this a, you know, public discussion.
Yeah. Thank you for your input. Thank all of you for your input.
Alex Cudney, 130 Taylor. I live in A building at the townhomes. When everybody talks about big vehicles, you're talking about my truck out there. That one belongs to me. And I would actually be a big opponent of closing off Taylor Street. That would be a great thing for us, but I would echo what some of my other Taylor Street residents have said, that I think it would lead to further disconnection of Minturn in general. I think things like enforcement would be a better solution to curbing some of those behaviors. We've seen some pretty outrageous speeding going on with the construction workers while they've gotten into some drier weather and can really open it up going in front of our houses on Minturn Road. And I think things like that would only increase if we direct more traffic onto Minturn Road rather than having a turn there for Taylor Street. I think what Rob mentioned about the traffic kind of evening out as both roads are paved and new rings true for me. You know, I think we plan on using Minturn Road once it's paved to get out of town if we're going towards the highway, and I think a lot of other residents will do that as well. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else got some comment they want to make?
Hi, my name's Nathan LaCrosse. I live at 322 Taylor Street. And I'd like to thank the town council for all your work. And now I want to yell at you. Because we've had a lot of public comment about this in the past. And most of the people here all agreed that any new paving would start at the east end, including, I'm assuming, the drainage ditch, and head west. So I'm a little confused why I'm even here right now, seeing a drainage grate imposing on my driveway. Is it possible to start the drainage grate and push everything to the west?
We have on this plan.
Off the right of way or off
No,
of the existing
It doesn't
driveway?
go off the right of way, but it pushes it to the west side of the right of way.
Okay. Well, that'll help my parking situation. And then with that in mind, it'd be nice to see everything slope to the west where there's a nice drainage system put in by the new development there. I'd also like to comment on where Taylor Street meets Railroad Avenue. Is it possible to have that intersection come by Jerry's house at the low point of Taylor Street on the new land acquired to connect? So it would be a square turn onto Railroad Avenue. And then
You mean onto Minturn Road?
onto Minturn Road. Excuse me.
That was studied pretty extensively during the Minturn North approval process. In order to make that a completely safe intersection, it would require raising Minturn Road like 5 or 6 feet.
Could it just be raised at the, I'm looking at that dangerous intersection now between Taylor and Minturn Road, is a result of the town allowing those townhomes to go in. And that's why we have that dangerous intersection. These seem like the two lowest points by Jerry's driveway to reconnect those roads and make it safer for our whole community. So I think I would rather see money allocated towards that as opposed to the drainage grate, proposed in front of everyone's house. I do agree with having it at the most crucial spots where all the water is currently draining. I think that'll help everyone, but I don't think it needs to go along the whole street. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Nick. Any other people want to speak? Cindy, do you have someone out there?
No one with their hand raised. Oh, sorry, I take that back. David, I have a David, I don't have a last name. Let's see.
Clap.
Oh, maybe. Let me go ahead. Let's see.
Hi, it's David Clapp. David Clapp, 392 Taylor Street.
Go ahead, David.
Hi. I just wanted to, I have the same concerns as everyone else does. My main one is, where is it going to be platted on the road? The 4-foot pan. Is it at the is it where the snowplow runs now? Or is it like right next to me? There's right next door to my property is a retaining wall with a driveway coming out halfway into pretty much Taylor Street's right away. Where's the drainage pan going to be there? Is my main concern. And then where does it go from there onto my property in front of my?
I think it sounds like there's confusion about where the east edge of the road starts, and maybe you can just clarify.
The east edge of the road is going to be very close to where it is now.
And we don't intend to encroach on.
So how about the encroachments coming out into the east end of the road? Are they going to be messed with?
No.
I'm sorry, I can't understand what he's saying.
Can you speak a little louder, Dave?
Further encroachment
The
to the east.
encroachment into Taylor Street, are they affected by the pan?
Like, our intention is to not encroach on property, it's to start the work
No,
with
it
the
won't.
existing asphalt
There are,
starts, basically.
my neighbor who
The
has
concrete pan, the intent of it is to collect nuisance flows, low drainage amount, but it also protects the edge of the asphalt because we do have drainage that's going to be trying to get under the road, and this will help protect that. But the pan itself is, if you look at the total platform of the road, it's essentially the same width as the asphalt that's out there now. And so the goal would be to
pretty much
leave the edge where it is on the east side.
Did you catch that, Dave?
So if I understand correctly, the pan will be pretty much where the existing asphalt is now.
Yes.
Yes, that's the goal.
Very cool, thank you. But yeah, if you could just, outline that a little bit better and make it, more visibly able to comprehend. And as far as the dead end or keeping it going, Taylor Street going by a townhome, I'm in favor for keeping it as the same. We dealt with that issue when the townhomes were built. And, for building A, it was said they're not allowed to park in their driveway. And everyone was happy with that. And so, it's not the town's problem to fix old Comerford problems. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave. Anyone else?
Get his money back so he can fix the
Um,
road.
I have more comment.
Yeah, that's the problem. Unless there's
Earl, I don't see anyone else with their hand raised on Zoom.
Is it feasible to do the pan just in pieces where it's really necessary? Or does that?
It's not a good idea to start and stop the pan because the water's gonna be flowing, to the south. And getting water back up into a pan once it's off is difficult. So if we do a pan, I recommend it be continuous. And I don't think it's gonna be that noticeable, honestly. We'll do some more detailed drawings if that's the way we're gonna proceed with the design, but the east edge of the pan is not gonna be much different than the east edge of the asphalt is right now.
I think that would reassure a lot of people if they could see that clearly on the drawing.
Yeah, reverse order. So one, on that last comment, if everybody wants to peel back the history book a little bit, it's both the town and Comerford because there were agreements between the two. And then the town did not enforce them with Comerford, so I'll just let that die. Second option, the closure suggestion of the south end, while yes, extreme, again highlights the fact that once structures go in at Minturn North, it's going to be more of a problem. All the concerns people raised are valid. The reason it died a cold death, again, if we remember in the PUD, was what Jeff already highlighted, which was the 90-degree intersection is not feasible due to grade. So what does that mean? All the other suggestions and creative ideas, great. That's what we need to do. We need to figure out something else because what we have right now is not going to be sustainable, period. So on that note, I will happily be available to walk that area as a resident of Taylor Street on the south end. I'm pretty savvy on what goes on that end. So by all means, happy to join and have a conversation. Thanks.
Do we have an idea when Minturn North is going to be paving County Road and their project? Because we're trying to do ours in conjunction with that, so we don't have to pay setup. But I was just wondering if we've actually gotten anything from them when they're looking to do it, so we know where we're sitting.
I don't have a definitive schedule from them, but they've told me they're gonna pave it this summer. And one of the bidders for we've got some work out to bid right now at Norman, and one of those bidders is the low bidder for building Minturn Road. He told me that today on the phone. And so he's hoping when he mobilizes to do Minturn Road, that he would, for example, do Norman and save another mobilization.
Now, would it be wise to get a quote? Because I think Darren touched on it. We only have a certain amount in our budget, and we've been throwing things out, closing roads, doing pans, doing culverts. When we first initially talked about this, we just pretty much talked about using our impact fees that we got from Minturn North to pay for this. And from remember right, it's right at 750,000. If we come in at $1 million, we're going to go back to square one. And I just think that we should have the price up front, what it's actually costing to pave it, to see if we even have money to do the pan.
Yeah, I mean, now that we have a concept of what the town might want for this, we can start putting together some estimates.
I think that'd be good. Get some numbers. Yeah, thanks.
And I think the two numbers that come to mind right now would be, to do the road, the ideal road, if you will, with a concrete pan, and then just do another estimate to just replace the road.
Okay, yeah, because we definitely have to come in within our budget. We don't have a lot of extra money floating around in this town, so.
Right, but we could have done estimates for 14 different options, and we would have spent a lot of time doing that, and it was just, we needed some direction, and I think we have that now.
Sort of piggybacking on Gus's point there of mobilization and kind of working with the asphalt company. I know we had talked on the last meeting about making them available to residents so that they want to connect their driveways and do their own asphalt. I did want to address Rob's concern about ending on our right of way on the north side of Taylor. We're going to make that, can we make that same offer to the owner of that private property that the town does not own going up to the road? So
there's more than one owner up there, but yeah, we've talked to a couple of them and they're interested. So yes, we would make them part of this meeting that we would have. The town shouldn't be a part of that agreement. We can facilitate, you know, the introduction, but the actual contract should be between the homeowner and the contractor.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you.
Jeff, just, I apologize, refresh my memory on the goal of the timeline to actually complete the project, or do we have one?
For this one,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have one. We've been trying to get a concept of where to go with the design. And, you know, so we have one now, so we can start putting together a schedule.
Okay.
I will tell you that we're having trouble getting bidders this year for asphalt work. You know, when we put out the pedestrian improvements, we had one bid. That was it. And right now on the work we have out to bid, we have 2 registered bidders. And Arnold made calls to contractors and I made calls to contractors, and we rounded up one more bidder today, but that's it. We've got 2 guys bidding the work.
Yeah, most of them are already booked out for the season.
Yeah, you can lay asphalt, right?
Do it all. We'll be out there together, Earl.
Okay, I'm gonna be the guy leaning on the shovel.
That's good, that's all we need.
Okay, any more from the board?
The only thing I wanted to clarify that came up that we haven't touched on was that the parking for Game Creek is out of scope of this project, and we're expecting the Minturn North to bring a
Minturn
plan at
North
some point.
has made the commitment to build that parking.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that we're not discussing that because of that. Like, that's why we're not touching that with this. So, cool, thanks.
And there was concern about the parking being pointed downhill and having a hard time in the winter. We can get that leveled out.
It's not in scope. Let's talk
We,
about it.
I mean, they have not come to us for any approvals or any acceptance at all. So, yeah, we have, you know, they put some asphalt millings in there, that's all they've done. So, I mean, we need to look at it. When they say it's done, we need to look at what the grades are.
Okay, if there's no one else.
So just a little bit on the south side of Taylor in front of the Minturn Townhomes. Just some, a project that could be part of the Taylor repaving and part of the North Main Street. Just wanted to make sure we just touched on that as well.
If we're gonna do an estimate for Taylor, what we should do is put that on as an alternate.
Okay, so the out of town pavement on the north end, and then doing the drop on the west end of.
You want us to estimate for the north end too? How far would we go beyond the end?
If we did anything with what's out of town, it would be just what we talked about.
Oh, because we're going outside the city limits even, yeah.
So we might just put a skim coat on top and get rid of the mess there, or it will.
We don't have the end of it, but this is the city limits on that drawing, so.
Anything else? Okay. We'll go on to updating the town intern employee handbook. Hey, this is good stuff. Come on, come on.
Drainage, but not employment.
I got a beer back here, somebody will stay.
Wow. I'm starting to get a complex.
There's a rule in it about it, you have to stay for the whole meeting if you ever want to have public speaking.
Jay, you just don't get no respect.
Wow. I feel like between the budget, the audit, and this, I don't ever have a crew. So I'll try to make it a little bit quick. First off, thanks to Lynn. She actually went through and read it. And Lynn, I was actually looking at a lot of that. It said organization versus town. I had one question because I can't read what you had written, but that's pretty simple. And I'll just go through and change those all to where it says organization. Does it say town of Minturn or does it say manager or something?
And when it says
Hey,
company too.
folks, sidebars, go outside. Thank you. Sorry, Jay.
It says company a couple of times.
Right, and so we'll make it, and I was looking at it going, well, how big of a deal, you know, but I agree with you, let's make it, this, the last time this was actually reviewed and, or updated, and I apologize, I don't want to say me, but it was me that did it, and it was in 1998. It's been a while since it's been addressed, which is one of the main reasons why it's such a major rewrite now. All of the rewrite, and I'm going to question part of that, and that is when you brought up the confidentiality. Excuse me. I'm gonna make sure that what that says is what it should say. But everything has been reviewed by Employers Council, so pretty comfortable with it.
So it's basically Mountain States Employers Council boilerplate.
Right.
And
some of the boilers
have to be
have,
adapted to the town
Right.
of Minturn, like the confidentiality privilege. Every single employee would be in violation of that.
right. So we'll go ahead and tighten it up, loosen it up, make it colorful, whatever it needs to do. A couple of the main things that this rewrite did is it took out the procedures and put in, kept in the procedures and took out the practices, and it kind of gave us more of a technical manual versus here's what you can do and here's what you can't do, you know. So that's kind of the bigger changes of it. I did want to point out between 2008 and 12, we did a quick modification. Three of the managers changed how the employee retirement plan funding works. Originally, it started out at 8%, where the town contributed 8%. Now it's down to 4% match, which we might look at at a later time. The other one is CRSA would come through and say, we want to see an alcohol policy or a drug policy or something, and we would basically slap that on at the end of it. That's now incorporated into the manual itself.
With the drug testing policy, do you guys follow the CDOT standards or the Colorado for commercial driver's license where 50% is randomly tested within a year period?
We have not done a random test.
Because I think that's required by state law.
And we probably need to look at that and follow that up a little bit.
But it's only CDL holders and it's 50%.
I will point out, and this is one of the things that we get into with the confidentiality, there's 4 people that have a CDL. So, you know, it's real hard to do a random test and it not be, you know.
Sometimes you're pretty unlucky if you do it. You get it every year.
We do, anytime there would be an accident or something like that, we do a test. So the entire document was streamlined to create an employee manual that no longer includes the employee policies, but just procedures. The supplements were added over the years. Those have now been incorporated into the entire program. And except for, I think, page 2 or 3, the police and fire were actually removed, but those were still in there. So I'm going to go through and redo that. The leave policy is the biggest change, and essentially what happened and in my memo I said there were a lot of changes that were made, and one of them, at least one of them, was illegal that we currently had, and that is the paid time off. What we did back in '98, it was allowed, and you basically what happened is the original plan called, when I first got here, called for 2 weeks a year for vacation, 3 weeks after 5 years, 4 weeks after 10 years, plus 1 day that was just a personal day, and I was told it was so you could take your birthday off. Mine happens to be a holiday, so I never really needed to worry about that. And then you get 1 day a month for a sick day. And we basically added that up, and that's how we came up with those numbers. Those are not changing, just the way we're now going to accrue. I did go through, and thank you, Kate. One of your questions that you asked is you wanted to make sure we had money for the new town manager and stuff. And I thought, maybe I ought to double check that this isn't going to change the number very significantly. So it will change. It will go up about $3,500 from our accrual from 12/31 versus what it would be if we were doing this now. And the reason is that, for example, the 11 days vacation with the one personal day and the 12 days of sick day, it pretty much comes out 50-50. So basically, instead of where we were getting in trouble was our 30, 40, and 50% based on your stay at the town, that's now going to change to where it's a vacation and sick, and I'm basically taking the number and dividing their current balance in half. That will more affect the newer employees. And when I say newer, I want to point out that we've had one employee that hits 5 years to this in May, and we have one employee that has already hit it, and everybody else is between 5 and 10 or over 10. So we don't have an awful lot of turnover, which I think is a monumental point to make. But what this will do is we will basically take their balance, split it in half, and they will start accruing from that. They will still have the 2-year cap on both of them. And I'm saying it that way, Lynn, because you're kind of the expert I'm looking at. And if you said, no, you can't cap a sick time or something, I've never seen where you can't, but I'm kind of looking, hey, we're okay with that.
County had a cap of 440 hours on theirs.
Right. And so essentially what's going to happen is that if and I'll use me because I'm in the room right now, if I leave tomorrow, I would get 50% of my payout at the current rate of my wage, hourly wage. I would have gotten that before anyway. What it will now do is it'll say, you're going to get paid out of vacation, and it's still my 50%. The math still works the same. Where it changed and gave us about $3,000 more in liability was when I looked at the younger, the less time period.
The medical leave provisions are also different.
Right.
And there's been a new statute that was passed in Colorado that became effective in 2023 that changed everything and provides employees with new rights to paid leave. If the town opts out, which Minturn is going to do, they have the right to apply individually to get.
And that's the family leave.
It complies with all those requirements.
Correct. And that's the FAMLI, Family Leave Act.
No, it's not no, this is new. This is a state statute.
FAMLI.
FAMLI. I had never.
We did opt out of that by a vote of our staff, which is how you do it. And the reason we were able to opt out of it is because we did and still do have a plan that allows for us. It gives enough time that's equivalent to what the family leave would have done. So we're good to go with that. The other thing I want to point out, and to me this was a big important because we've used it 2 or 3 times since I've been here, and that is if somebody gets hurt and has to go out on a long-term disability. We had somebody that actually did he was out hunting and did an iron cross when he fell and ripped his shoulders apart. And he was out for quite a while. That individual was able to use the PTO time and extend through paid to get to the long-term disability. They can still do that. It's still going to require the vacation and sick time. It's still going to, but you can get to that 90 days out. And so essentially the person would be paid for those 90 days where they might not be in office or at their job, but they would still then go seamlessly somewhat into the long-term disability. So that was kind of a big bonus, not a bonus, but a big benefit to the employee, I felt. So there's an awful lot of changes, and this was one of those that it was, if I would have done this as a red line, we would have been looking at about 95 pages. When I accepted all the red lines, which I should have changed differently, it came out about 30 pages, which is kind of where we were at before. We actually had about 45 pages. So it's been reduced and condensed a little bit, but the crux of it is it's still the same benefit equivalent.
That's not how we would do it today.
Now, the reason I wanted to do this is I want to do this as a discussion or answer questions or whatever, and then I'll go back and take in whatever changes might have been discussed, and then I'll incorporate those and we'll come back with a resolution to approve it. I am shooting for May 7th. The reason I'm saying it that way is because I definitely want to sit down with each of my fellow employees and say, here's what the impact is going to be to you. And I can't do that in a group setting. I need to do that as an individual, just because everybody is a different place in the world.
One page I noticed that probably needed updated is the town of interim personnel policies, and it still lists like the fire department, police department on there. Then we don't have
That's a fix.
Okay.
We talked about that.
Lynn caught that one, but I actually caught it too. I should have caught it before. Again, this was one of those where the red lines were so immense that by the time I collected them and put them all in, it was like I still was missing things.
Do we think 11 days is enough to attract an employee in this day and age?
To do what?
11 days of vacation per year?
So the vacation is 2 weeks for up to 5 years. 5 to 10, it's 3 weeks. And over 10, it's 4 weeks plus 1 day each of those categories. And that's that personal day. So when you start looking through it, the hours that you can accrue don't change, just the way that it's accruing does. So you would still get the vacation that we've always had. And I think what you were saying is that enough?
That's what I was asking. It's always had for 30 years. Things have changed, and if we're trying to attract and retain
I'll be very honest.
Manager and a new public works person and all of this, I don't know.
Another thing that it says in there that sort of caveats off of that is, and I'll use Public Works as an example, it does say that if you're hired, you can't take vacation within 6 months unless it's manager and director approved. And the reason we do that is, as the example would be, if we hire a snowplow driver in October and they take a 3 week or a week-long vacation, that might be the wrong time because it's right in the middle of the winter. But it can. We've never denied somebody taking time that I can recall.
It might be overly ambitious to think that you can get it done by May 7th.
And if it's not, then it'll be May 21st.
I don't know how many changes there were in my red line, but
Well,
I'd say 300 or 400.
And most of those are company. Well, most of those are company, and that'll actually, those were the easy ones.
And
Maybe two.
There's one section you have to talk to Mike about
Right.
and resolve. So
Right. And I'm going to shoot for it, and if I can't make it, then I'm going to come back on the 7th and say I missed my mark. And I'm going to blame it on the new manager or the old one. I'm not sure which one yet. Does anybody have any question?
It just sounds like you and Lynn are gonna sit in front of a computer and hand jam all day, so.
Well, I'm just like, is there an urgency to having it by the 7th?
Are you just?
The urgency,
Okay.
you're right. There is not an urgency to it. The only urgency is that, I hate to say this, but I've been working on this for a long time. And
You'd like to be done with it.
I'm growing weary of the travel.
Well, I guess the only question above and beyond that is, we're going through obviously a new town manager process, so again, understand there's not necessarily urgency, but you wanna get it done. Is there a desire for whomever the new town manager is to have an opportunity to put their stamp on it first?
So the first answer is yes, they would fall under the employee manual. The second answer is,
No, I'm saying the draft.
would they want to review it first?
Right.
Potentially, but I mean, had this been on track the way it should have been, it would have been approved before Michelle even left. There is no emergency to passing it unless somebody like me were to leave tends to sit at the top of the hourly accrual. I still put in my leave requests and everything like that, but I never take more than about 8 hours a week most of the time if I do. And so I tend to stay right there at 528 hours. It's not a big deal to any of us. But to carry on to the point, a new town manager would fall under this manual. However, the new town manager is also a contract, so the council could do something with that. I mean.
It would be best if we got this done before the town manager started, because it will, that's the main, a new employee we're going to have, and it will govern that person's appointment.
Do you think moving ahead with it, or?
I would say before the new person, but it'll be a couple of months, I would think.
Yeah, and if we come through with a direction on May 1st, then it would be, we could be looking at another 60 days. Michelle had to give 60 days notice.
Right, but we wouldn't spend 60 days negotiating, right? We would negotiate based on.
Yeah.
Correct. Right.
If there's something that the new town manager feels it really needs to be changed, it could always be changed after.
Right.
So.
And I'm good at just slapping it on the back of it. No, I'm kidding.
But right, I guess that's just my question, is like, do we need to do it for the 7th? Or can we do it for the 21st and have a better outcome?
I apologize. I have forgotten that you were not going to be in country, and I think that was because it's very hard to watch you travel as much as you do and not be able to go with you. So I have no problem with scooting it to the 21st. It actually gets it further away from, not further away from the manager decision, but it gets it out of that busy period. So I will.
Just email Red House to Mike and he'll be with us at your headache.
Does
Well, I
anybody?
mean, I'm also just looking at future agenda items, and it seems like we've got plenty for the 7th, and we have so far one thing on the 21st, like,
Right.
it makes
Be
sense
better
to
to do
balance
it then.
that anyway.
Yeah.
It's only been since 1998.
Yeah, it was only 2 weeks.
So with that, we'll skip future agenda items.
I'm going to move this to 5:21.
Okay.
Okay, that'll be good. Anything else? It's my mic. So I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, we have 2 motions to adjourn. All in favor?
All in favor.